I'm Justin Luke. I work at One Wake in Beaufort, Georgia. I'm the manager of that store, and I run the boat chapter on Lake Lanier. I got into wakeboarding after I moved from Florida. When I was younger, we moved up here to Atlanta and was quickly landlocked. Started longboarding, skateboarding again, and my dad, out of nowhere, showed up with a older Monterey, and he always had a love for boating, going out with his grandpa fishing and stuff. So he wanted to get us out on the lake. And then as soon as we got on the water, it was just like love at first sight. My life started to take a change in high school. Once I soon found out that if it wasn't gonna kill me, it was probably pretty fun. That was a turning point in my life. From there, it started to evolve into the drugs and alcohol side of things. As a kid, that's what you try to find. You try to find your niche, you try to find your crew, you try to find the spot at the lunch table, if you will. And with the drinking, I felt accepted as being cool. The problem with drinking is it starts out fun and then it becomes a full-time job. It started to become a weekend thing, and then it led into a 5 o'clock thing, and then it led into when's the next time I can start to drink again. Everything that I did and chose to do or not do was in turn to get to drinking or drugging. It was funny. It's like the worst and best day of your life. When I checked in rehab, I was like, this is the worst. Like, how did I possibly get here? Like, I always would make fun of these people. I would belittle them. I would be, condescending to it. Like, how can you have that big of a problem that you can't stop? But that was the reality of my life, and I'd finally accepted it. And it's still funny because I didn't know what I was accepting. The only thing that I knew was that the conversation with my parents had to end in me getting better, or ended with us not having a relationship ever again, and they had to step away. And that was too tough for me at the time, and it was God setting something in motion for my life that I couldn't even comprehend at the time. I was just saying yes because I didn't want to be homeless, and I didn't want to lose my relationship with my parents. And I checked in the people at Blue Ridge Mountain Recovery Center, and I went and waited outside for a minute. My parents had left. Everything was it was on me at this point. And for some reason, all that stress, all that worry, all that the consequences of my life weighing on me felt like they were relieved. Like this is a big turning point, and this can be something serious if I take the opportunity at hand and I make something of it. And I think that was God's intervention on my life, and all I had to do was just say yes and be accepting to it, and he would take care of the rest. So I first heard about WakeWell. I was probably 3 months fresh out of rehab. AK took a big risk on me working back at the shop. We were sitting at the boat show, and he was mentioning that there was a conference for this thing, WakeWell, that he does, and I'd seen it in passing and knew kind of he was a part of something, but I didn't really know. And at that point, I was in the process of just saying yes to everything. Stuff that I normally wouldn't say yes to, though. And I had just, reverted back to my faith through being sober, and finding a higher power is a big thing and a big step in the 12-step program. Had no idea what I was showing up for, and we actually showed up a day early and met with the WakeWell crew, Mark, met Jacob, and we went out to dinner, and we were like immediately best friends. Like, we had known each other, and I don't know if it was through AK or what, but it was a really fun moment, and it went back to that acceptance feeling. Felt accepted immediately. Nobody asked me any questions. There was no qualifications. I was there, and that's what mattered, and we were gonna have a good weekend. Along the same time that I was at the conference, me and AK were powwowing, more so at that point about business and what was going on at the shop, but he was just kind of asking me how things were going for WakeWell, and I was just so stoked on the way that the weekend was going, and just the riding and everybody's camaraderie, and just, wakeboarding is already such a small group, and then to even condense it down into people that are not only passionate about God, but they're also passionate about Wake. That was something that I was like, what do I need to do? How do I sign up? Do I come help you at Terminus? He's like, why don't you just start one on Lake Lanier? We had one going. The guy left and you can pick it up. I was like, done deal. WakeWell has kicked off and sparked a love for God that I didn't know that I had in me. And that started with trying to scramble to get a devotion going, or what am I going to talk about? But it started a conversation with God daily and openly about what I need to do. And somehow, funny enough, that overflew into my day-to-day life. And it was no longer just for WakeWell, but it was, for everything that I do. So without WakeWell, I do not think that my faith would be as in depth and as strong as it has been. It's a weekly check-in for me at the very least, but it's ultimately overflown into everything I do in my life. From the way that I carry myself, from the way that I try to talk to people, and we're remembering that, I am a product of God, and through that, I need to show that love to others as much as I possibly can. So this was an old post, but this really does pretty much sum up exactly how it was and still how it is now. I never saw my life changing in my old life. I didn't want it to. I didn't care, but I also knew deep down that I didn't want to die. And the way that I was living my life, that was probably the final conclusion. But with that being said, by the grace of God, my life has changed more drastically for the good than I could have ever imagined. I have my family back. I have a loving fiance, a relationship with God, and friends who only want the best for my life. Love God, love others, love Wake. That's WakeWell.